All right, well, welcome everybody. Do we have anybody here for the first time? We're going to let you introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone.
I'm KM4INO from University of Central Florida. I moved up here for a job at Hill Air Force Base, and I have some radio projects that I hope I could pick a brain or two for some solutions, and thank you for the hospitality.
Oh, what's your name?
Oh, Ramsey.
Raymond?
Oh, Ramsey. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Welcome. Glad to have you. Anybody else here for the first time?
You got me, Evan Day.
Okay.
We got a station on Zoom.
All right, Zoom, introduce yourself.
Yeah, Evan Day, W0GOP. Just got onto I'll talk about it later, but I got onto the remote site about a month ago. But I go back to my advanced class in 1949. So I've been around a while, but I also dropped out, then got back into it again in 2021 and been having a ball. It's a great hobby for an old guy. Live up in Brigham City.
Well, welcome. I am impressed. You've been a ham longer than I've been alive, and I'm an old man.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, last chance. Anybody upgraded since we met last? Why isn't nobody ever upgrades? Okay, I'm going to turn the mic over to James for a moment. He's got an announcement for us. Okay, go ahead.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I've got a couple announcements to make this evening before we get started. First thing, I am very sad to announce that Chris Price, W7CHP, has become a silent key. It's a little hard to talk about, but he was definitely a great friend and a real great mentor in the hobby, and I absolutely loved working with him. He was very involved in ARES, and as well as making sure that we all stay connected in a disaster or whatever might come our way. So after meeting up with him at one of our local conventions, I was there. I had a booth there for the Salt Lake Crossroads Amateur Radio Club. He was there with ARES. He came up to my booth and said, "Hey, did you get any new signups for your club?" I was really excited about that, and the fact that he was able to break away from his ARES table and come over and talk to me about what I was doing, we hit it off. We talked a lot on Simplex and did a lot of other great events together, which was really neat and really cool. Other than that sad news, one thing I would like to talk about as well, we've had a jammer. We've had a jammer that's been jamming our Intermountain Intertie as well as the 6.2. It's been a little bit of a pain in the butt. If you ever hear anybody on the 6.2 that shouldn't be there and you hear them transmitting obscenities or other things like that, what I would like you to do is just listen on the reverse, see if you can hear this other station without the repeater. Go ahead and keep track of what antenna you're using at the time, flip your radio over to the reverse frequency, and go ahead and email one of our club officers or just call us and say, "Hey, this is going on. We hear this guy, he's doing some bad stuff on one of these repeaters." But if we can get good signal reports, we can go ahead and track down where this guy is and find out where the offending signals are coming from. So other than that, I don't have much else to add other than our program this evening. So I'll turn things back over to our president.
Thanks, James. Are there any other announcements? Anybody have anything else they want to share? Okay, Rick, tell us what's in the bookstore today.
Well, I hope the reverb that we were getting here in the room isn't too bad for those not here. I do have new stock on the Best of Arduino projects for ham radio, which is one of the ARL new titles. And we have in the room here some free, dated, undoubtedly, electronics books, if you're so inclined and want to come up and look. They are free. They are not ARL publications. They're old textbooks that I pulled off the Marriott Library book sale free day selections. So other than that, still have some that are discounted down. We do have the new Parks on the Air book if you're looking to do any of that. So other than that, get your hats, keep the snow off your glasses.
Thank you, Rick. All right. Nominations are over for officers. Mike, do you want to share anything with us? Or Linda?
Nominations. Any other nominations, Mike?
Any other nominations?
Microphone.
No, it looks like.
Microphone. You need a microphone.
Linda and I haven't gotten any new nominations and everybody is running for the office that they were already a part of, so that includes Marvin here as our president. Our executive vice president is Linda. The vice president is Bruce. Secretary is James. Our treasurer isn't here tonight, but that's Sean. Program chair 1 is me, and program chair 2 is Jerry. And did I forget anybody?
Probably.
Okay, well, so we'll be voting next week. You can make nominations tonight if you like, and you can also make nominations next month, right before the vote. However, if you're nominating somebody for an office, make sure they're willing to serve. And one of the things is next month we will have a little bit of a different order of the meeting, because we're going to have Karl Litzelschwab give a presentation, but he has an early morning flight out east to the Cayman Islands. And so he asked that we give him the mic at 7:30 when we start the meeting. So what we'll do is we'll have his presentation first, and then we'll go into having the elections, taking nominations, etc.
Thank you, Mike. All right. The program was going to be Gary Crum. Gary can't make it, and we have no video, so James is going to fill in. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, mic's off.
All right, so good evening. So our presentation was on our Leamington remote stations, as well as our one in Fairview. So it's going to be really exciting to talk about. People are finally showing up to the Zoom meeting, which is great. So the first thing that I wanted to talk about with our remote stations, what the purpose of those were, and why the club actually took the job to undertake those projects, and what that means for our club members. I do see here that Clint, KA7OEI is on. Maybe Clint, if you can take a brief moment and talk about why we made these remote stations. I'll let you chime in later if you want, or you can go ahead and go on as long as you'd like before we get started with photos and stuff like that.
Okay, is my audio okay?
Perfect.
Okay, good. All right, well, for those of you who haven't been paying much attention or or newly members of the club, UARC actually has count them, two remote stations, HF stations, and one of them is near Leamington, which, if you don't know, is near Delta. If you don't know where that is, it's central Utah, kind of on the west side rather. And it's at an old AT&T site near Leamington. And let's see here, somebody needs to enable sharing in the Zoom session. I'll wait for James to work that out. Let me know when it's fixed. But anyway, increasingly, people are living in one of three possible situations. Oh, thank you. They're in a location like an apartment, townhouse, or whatever, where there's no possibility of running antennas. They're somewhere where they can put up antennas, but it's so darn noisy because of all the electronic stuff around that they wouldn't be able to hear anything anyway. Or they don't know if they are quite interested in making the plunge or getting things all set up or something like that, and just want to get on HF and try it out, but don't want to go through the hassle or the expense of getting something set up in the first place. Well, have I got a deal for you? If you're a member of UARC here in Utah, which most of them are, there's two stations, HF stations with decent antennas that you can use. One of them, as I mentioned, is near Leamington, and it's at an old AT&T long line site. So, and you can kind of see what we're talking about here. This is a picture including me standing on the tower at 70 feet. And on top of that, let's see if I can find, photos of stuff. We put this beam here. It's a HF log periodic beam antenna, and it can be handled remotely via the RC4 program, which you can download for free. And I will fire that up in a moment here. And you can remotely control the HF station, which is a FT480, a Kenwood TS480, sorry. Kenwood TS480 that's remotely controlled down there, run on one of three antennas, the beam you just saw, the a ANFET half wave cut for 160 meters, which works really well on bands up through 20 meters. And also there's a G5RV down there as well. And it's relatively quiet noise-wise down there. And as I say, all you need for that one is just an antenna. I mean just a PC or whatever that runs the program on your local computer. And it's good to have a headset that you can wear for headphones and a good local microphone. And people run sideband and CW on there. I say most of the use these days seems to be from people running CW, if it's aside from people like checking into the nets at the Beehive net. And I can show sort of how to do that a bit later. I don't want to step on anybody's toes or get ahead of myself. The other station is at the cabin of Glen Worthington WA7X near Fairview. It's a bit more modest. It's also a TS480, but it runs 200 watts, and it uses a off-center fed dipole, and it gets out pretty well too. So if somebody's on the one station, you can try the other station. But anyway, I'll send it back to you, James, for the moment, and I'll take cues from you as to where to go next.
All
I
right,
think I caught
well,
you off guard.
sorry, go ahead, Clint.
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to catch you flat-footed.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, that's a good explanation of why we actually built the remote stations, what they're good for, and why the club actually got into it. We have Evan Day, W0GOP. He wanted to talk a little bit about his experiences on the on the remote station. So, Evan, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. I want to first off let you guys know I'm just really grateful that you have this facility available. One of the situations Clint didn't talk about was that I'm right up against the mountains, last street against the mountain range, and I'm completely blocked to the east and north on 10 meters and 15 meters and even a little bit on 20. So being able to go out in the middle of Nowheresville with a 360-degree arc, boy, that's been great. And I'm one of the CW weenies. I started out with CW, like I said early on, and came back into it real fast. So I have operated within the last month. I just got operational on this about a month ago, and have had both CW and single sideband. And along that line, give you an idea, the capability of this rig is just absolutely amazing. In the last month, I'm not bragging, but I'm just having so much fun with it. But in the last month, I've had over 200 contacts, of which 20 are foreign DX stations that I didn't have before, most of them in Europe, because now I can talk to Europe. So I'm just loving it. Almost all of my contacts have been on CW, but indeed it works very well on USB. And talking about the antennas, don't sell that G5RV short. At one point, there was about a week where the log periodic was down, and I just flipped over to the G5RV and made my first call, and a guy in Croatia came back with a 599 report. You know, you can't get any better than that. And of course, it's more omnidirectional. Of course, you got front side and back side off the beam, and so when you name it northwest for the Pacific rim, well, the backside you also get South America. But it's been a great experience for me and a learning experience for a guy to come back into it after all of these years. And of course, I went down with the guys on the maintenance trip and had a great time. It was really fun. So I think you guys have got a real gem here. Thank you.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely appreciate that, and thank you for bringing that up. Next, we're going to have Morris. Morris is going to talk about the early days of Leamington and the Fairview station and kind of why we got started as well. Feel free to go ahead, Morris.
Let's see, can you hear me?
5x9.
Good. And unfortunately, you can also see me if you need to.
We can see you.
My dear and close friend, Steve Olson, one of the best electrical engineers I've ever met. He and I became great friends. And he was also a person that hated to work very hard. That is, he seldom worked more than 12 hours a day. And in the middle of working one night, he was looking through one of the things online and found this microwave site for sale. In fact, several of them. And so he investigated several of them. Went to see a couple, I think. And Randy, feel free to jump in anywhere here. Anyway, he bought it and wanted me to go out and see it. And I was confined to a wheelchair. They made it so that I could get around. What that amounted to was 2 pieces of 4x8 plywood that when I got from one piece sheet of plywood to the next, and they carried the one that I'd just gotten off of to the front of the next one. Not very fast mode of transportation, but it beats burying yourself in gravel. So for those that you haven't been to Leamington, there is a building with about 1,000 square feet, maybe twice that. Does anybody have an idea?
3,000 square foot.
My wife says it's closer to 2,000. What? Now she's upped it to 3,000.
3,000 is what I knew.
Okay. So 3,000. And when he bought it, there was it 750 kilowatt, Randy?
Don't remember what his power was.
Well, that was somewhere in that neighborhood. It might have been a little bit more, but not, I don't think much less. Anyway, they had to get that. They sold the generator to a friend for a nicely discounted price. I think the price was get it out of Steve's building. If you could do that, you could keep it. So they had to arrange for something with enough beef to carry it and work out some ways. There are rails in the roof there that are designed for carrying heavy loads, and somehow using those and other materials, they managed to get it out and carry it away. Randy, do you remember what year he bought that?
No, I don't. You're probably right. My generator is 60 kilowatts up there in Idaho, and it's much smaller than the one he had.
Yeah, it was a monster. But the hole in the wall that the exhaust from the generator provided a place. I had a wood burning stove that would put out quite a little bit of heat. And so I gave that to Randy to put it up in Leamington. So I put it up there. Do you know, is it still sitting there?
Yeah, that's definitely good. We'll go ahead and get started with the presentation here for everybody else here in the meeting, and we'll get going with things here in just a second. But yeah, feel free to go ahead and add what else you want to, Morris, before we get started with the presentation.
Okay, well, anyway, the outhouse out there, if you're familiar with outhouses, they have a problem with odor. So Randy cured that problem by
Steve.
Steve. Sorry, Randy. By putting high power resistors in a chimney to develop a flow, a draft. And I guess that really cured the problem. He also tried to make it handicapped accessible, but unfortunately that didn't work out for me. So anyway, I talked to Steve and said, let's put a radio out here. That should be a fun experiment. He says, yeah, let's do that. So I had a Nikon 7000 and I took it over one weekend when we were out at the site and hooked it up. And the other half of that task, of course, is putting up an antenna. And that's the G5RV that is still there. So I'm thinking that we're 20 years in, pretty close. What year did you do the school presentation.
I don't remember that either. It's been a long time ago.
But it was
And I think
around
it's probably
04,
what?
05.
Yeah, I think I got my tower in 2003 or 4, somewhere like that. And
So,
Steve had his a couple years before I got mine.
yeah. So anyway, around the turn of the century. Not that it matters a whole lot, except that now I wandered down that rat hole and forgot where I was going.
That's
Well,
okay.
yeah,
Let's go
yes.
ahead and get started with the presentation. We'll get through it, and then we're gonna go ahead and let other people comment if they have anything else to bring up. So we'll stop here and there as we get through this. But thank you, Morris. Thank you, Randy, and let's go ahead and get started. Oh, goodness gracious. We're going to go ahead and talk about our remote stations and why we built them and what they're there for and stuff like that. So the main thing that we're having trouble with here at the meeting is that the projector is not working. So we're going to do the best we can to muddle through and get going with things. And now we're going to let some of the people at the in-person meeting have some of their own enjoyment and some fun as well. So we'll go ahead and get started off with this first slide that we have here. So this is a picture of our log periodic antenna that we put up on the tower. This is one of the first antennas we put up after the G5RV. It's pretty neat. You can see it here assembled on the top of the building and what that looks like. It was definitely a pain in the butt to get that thing up there and get it to the top of the tower on Leamington. But yeah, for sure, we'll go ahead and get into that a little bit more, and we'll dive into that. So at our Leamington site, we do have a tower at the top, which actually does raise and lower. So this is the main tower for our Leamington site. And you can see here, you can see the arc of the tower raising and lowering. Usually what we need to do is we need to lower the tower to install or attach some of our HF antennas, which it's really great that our club actually came together to pull off this feat to allow our club members who can't afford an HF rig or are limited by their HOA situation or things like that, to actually have an antenna, which is really neat and really gosh darn cool. So definitely a lot of people have participated and helped out in some of our tower builds, including Gary, Clint, and Chuck as well. But let's go ahead and talk about some of our antennas and what we have at the site here. This is a map of the SWR or the VISWAR for our 160 meter end-fed half wave, which is really neat. It tunes up on quite a few of the different bands. Let's go ahead and look at our log periodic beam. So our log periodic beam does tune up and work on quite a few different frequencies there, 20 meters and higher. And as well as the original G5RV, which we do have, which is really neat as well. Here's a picture of the completed setup after we got the log periodic antenna installed at the site. And here's a picture of Chuck doing a little bit more work on things, but as well as Laird. Here as well, Clint is here. And here's a picture of me and Clint checking out the log periodic to make sure things are up and running and up to snuff. But after doing a little bit of tinkering and thinking, we've got our log periodic We've got our end-fed half wave, and we've got our G5RV, allowing a lot of generals and extras to actually utilize the station and do stuff with it. But wouldn't it be neat if technician class operators would be able to use it? So we formulated a plan, put it together. It had to be put off for an entire year because of the rough winter and waiting for things and parts to ship. But eventually what we ended up doing was we got a 6-meter beam. We got a 6-meter beam that our previous treasurer, Chuck, was able to put together, and we went out this last Leamington party to install it. We were there at this last Leamington work party. We were there almost until midnight working on this gosh darn thing to get it put up on the tower. There was definitely a lot of people there, and it took a lot of work and final adjustments to get the thing up and running and put things together to get 6 meters going. We definitely had a lot of other work that needed to be done during the work party, especially the exterior work. Here's one of our new hams, Blaze. Definitely a godsend for sure. He helped out with quite a few things and was just really excited after getting his technician license to be actually involved and getting involved in ham radio and being a part of the Utah Amateur Radio Club. Here's another good guy, our local Santa, Dan, N7XDL. He happens to also, as well as being a member of this club, he happens to be the president of the Murray Amateur Radio Club, which is really neat that he came down for the work party and helped us out with his climbing gear and was able to help us get on the tower and get some stuff done. Here's Marvin and some others working on the antenna, getting things ready to go before the final raising. Here as well, oh gosh darn it, I forgot his name and I'm blanking. Yeah, that's Brett. Brett RDR. He came out to help us climb the tower as well and assemble things. We eventually convinced Blaze to don a climbing harness and actually come up with us. He was a little bit nervous, but that was really neat that he was able to come up with us and help us join. So we're all up there working on the tower. We've got the tower lowered and we're getting ready and making the preparations to attach the 6-meter beam. Still doing more work and scrambling around at some odds and ends. We kept working and the day kept getting longer. They were cooking lunch down there below the tower and we weren't quite ready to come down yet, but I sure tell you what, those bratwursts sure smelt nice. So eventually we got the 6-meter beam on and things were really nice and really neat and we were really, really excited to raise it. Due to the technical difficulties here, I don't think I can show the video of the of the actual tower being raised up with the new 6-meter beam, but that's okay, that's fine. But after a few final adjustments and getting the new coax run for the 6-meter beam, we were ready to go. Here's our switching box, and it sits there at the top of the tower. And here is the actual control for things. This is the actual host computer at Leamington, our remote site there. Again, we use RC Forbes is the way to access that. You can see here on the screen, we have record of every person that's logged onto the station, as well as the internet connectivity. We can check the status of the internet connectivity, as well as the battery level of the station. We can check to see how the UPS is going to perform, what battery level is left, and we can make sure that the station is up and running during a power outage. But the cool thing about the software and us being able to keep track of it, we can make sure that we can add members to our club to this list to use this remote station. But as well, even if you're just a technician, we can still let you onto the station and we can control exactly what station is able to actually do what. And it's really neat, meaning that we can have technicians, we can let them use the Leamington remote, and we can let them use 10 meters and 6 meters without going outside their frequency privileges, which is really neat and really cool. So here's a good view of the RC Forbes software and what the control looks like. Here you can see the rotator controls, the radio controls, as well as, all importantly, you can see the chat logs here. We all have to share the station, and we all ask for permission. May I tune the remote? And we talk to each other, and we all share use of the station, and we all work together, and we all enjoy its use, and it's quite a bit of fun. Here's some more pictures of the fantastic internet connection from the Leamington site. Yes. Oh yeah, I will. I'll back up. Go ahead.
Probably goes without saying, but only one person can use the station at a time, correct?
Yeah, only one person can use the station at. Well, only one person can transmit at one time. Yeah.
Okay. The second question is, if you log into the station and you're transmitting, or you're getting ready to transmit, do you use your normal call sign, or is there some special adder that you have to tag on at the end of it?
That's a good question. I believe you would normally use your call sign. Oh, go ahead.
You have to repeat the questions.
Oh, go ahead, Clint. Sorry about that.
You're going to have to repeat the questions, but from the context, you use your own call sign typically whenever somebody uses it, because it'd be like you borrowing someone else's radio. Sorry, I better start my video. Consider it like you're visiting someone else's station and sitting in the microphone. You have the option of using either call sign, but the policy is that you use your own call sign when you are at that station, when you are remotely connecting to that station. So there's another question there that I think somebody asked, but I didn't hear it.
Okay, perfect. We have Sabra AI7UG that has a question. Sabra, why don't you go ahead?
Yes, I haven't used it yet for accessibility reasons, but when I was reading the instructions, I think it was saying to say the UARC call sign and then remote and then your call sign.
You can. I mean, that's optional. It's probably confusing for most people, but if you keep changing, throw out more than one call sign. But generally speaking, remember what remote you're on, but treat it as if it was your own station with your own privileges and all that. For example, if you're even though the club at field day, for example, you can operate as an extra class station because the person representing the club president has an extra class. That would not be the case with the remote station. You would be operating it as if it was your own station. It's probably a bit confusing for most people if you threw out more than one call sign. So I'll have to read what it says on the documentation to find out what the procedure is, but I imagine most of the people that use it only ever mention their own call sign and not that of the club, unless somebody asks, because often it's a topic of conversation that just comes up naturally.
All right, fantastic. Do we have any other questions? I have a question. Go ahead, Linda.
When you're using this, do you, can you type like your keys on a typewriter on the computer and just type in the frequency you want, or do they use because I just wondered if a blind person could use that, and like would you press a certain keys for certain bands you want to get on, or how that works?
Sorry, that's a good question. I don't actually know. I haven't tried that. I think that RC4 uses the normal screen reading tools, and like any website or something, you kind of have to get used to where things are. You can type in the frequency and the mode. You can do that all on the keyboard if you're so inclined. But how a non-sighted person would know where to access that, I don't know off the top of my head. But I do know that non-sighted people do use RC4, so it must be possible. It might be. I haven't done the research on it. Might be worth going on the just asking around on the web to find out how people do use it. Whether it's whether there's some shortcuts in it or not. I wish I could answer the question off the top of my head, but as you're painfully aware, that's not some question that everybody asks, and maybe more people should. Sorry.
All right, perfect. Do we have anybody else that has any questions? Oh, Saber, go ahead.
I was just wondering, did you switch from the remote hands software to something else then? The remote hands software was having accessibility problems before. That's the software HandyHams had been using as well. So I guess they broke accessibility or something. But I'll definitely have to look back into that, especially if it changed or became more accessible.
Well, Remote Hams is a totally different software. That's a Remote Hams, I believe, is one of the systems where you can pay either a monthly like club membership, or maybe pay by the hour. There's a number of those. It uses, as far as I know, it uses different software than this.
Clint, RC4 is a remote hams product.
Oh, is it?
It is.
Okay.
And to answer your questions on desktop, I just tried to run accessibility on the desktop application, and it absolutely fell on its face. Screen reader only picks up the title bars and does not actually work with the controls.
Okay, that's good to know. So the quick answer is we can't run other software because there's two pieces of this. There's the piece that runs at the far end, and the piece that runs at on your computer. And we can't switch between the two because there's the part that's on the computer at the far end runs the radio, runs the rotator, runs everything. So that's good to know that you tried that, Brett. I probably should do more to find out how things like that work, but I'm glad somebody looked into that. I guess it's something that hopefully they're working on. But
there is also, though, an Android and iPhone-based application for it, and those may work a bit better for those who are part of that organization. It's just the Windows app, as far as my experience here goes, the Windows app just does not work. There's way too many things clustered together, and it tabs you through every radio type, frequency, and city. It doesn't let you tab down easily, so that's what that is.
All right, I think we answered that question. We'll go ahead and get back into things here a little bit. Does anybody else have any other questions before we continue the presentation here this evening?
One question.
All right, one moment. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, is there a provision within the software for somebody to do receive only, perhaps listen and not have any control at all without having to log in? What are the different parameters that one can do? You said there's a lot of capability, so if I wanted to have somebody just log in, or I just wanted to log in, I don't want to have to go through the whole process of signing in or whatnot. Can they at least listen without having to go through all the process that you're talking about?
I believe is it? I believe that you can listen all you want without having to sign up. I think that's the default on most of these RC4 received radio sites, where if there's nobody else on it that's transmitting, most of them allow you to just to listen without any strings attached. But also, if you do want to listen too, just listen. I might toot a horn a bit. Are you familiar with the web SDRs, like the one at Northern Utah? Which like let me just bring that up here. It's let's see, because it's on the I mean it's along the similar lines. If you just want to receive, there's at sdrutah.org, there's a bunch of servers, and there's some around the world, and on this one you can receive all you want. Let's see, on the system there's 123 people right now, but if you can get on any band you want that's covered, and you have your own virtual receiver on your browser, and you can tune any mode, change to different bands, and there's several antennas up there, and there's a number of other systems like that around the world. It's sdrutah.org, and that's one of several. So the answer is you have quite a few options. You can just listen on it, and if nobody's using it, do that, or you can use one of these other ones that are just dedicated to receive sites. I mentioned one of the reasons why people would use a remote system, in that there's a lot of noise. A lot of people have a lot of noise, but they can transmit okay, or they have their own antenna or something. They just can't hear it, and some of the receive-only systems are well suited for that. So go ahead, James.
All right. Well, thank you. I definitely do appreciate that. Yeah, we do have the Utah SDR. It's at utahsdr.org, as well as the receiver station at my own home QTH.
It's sdrutah.org.
K7xrd.club. That one uses RTL USB SDR, so it's not necessarily as reliable as the utahsdr.org. And as well, it doesn't have the same amazing antennas and all the hard work put into it as the Utah SDR. But yeah, just for somebody that wants to listen and wants to actually just listen to the radio and see what's going on, our web SDRs make it a great way for you to actually get on and actually listen to some of the frequencies. But our remote stations that our club has put together allows you to actually transmit, which is really neat and really cool. Do we have any other questions that we might be able to answer before we get back into the presentation? Go ahead.
Yes, this is probably premature, but so we've talked about the Leamington site. What is the Farmington or Fairview site? How do we access that?
Go ahead, Clint.
Okay. But by the way, it's sdrutah.org. So if you go to utahsdr.org, you probably don't want to do that. I have no idea what's hijacked there at the moment. But
right now it wants you to download Firefox extensions.
Right. So it's sdrutah.org. Okay. But anyway, I'll bring up, if I can get this thing to switch. I'll show you what it looks like here on RC4. I bail out of it.
Just keep your microphone gain high, and keep in mind that the projector is not working here at the meeting, so everybody is actually looking at my laptop screen, so keep things short and brief.
Okay. I see. So when you go to RC4, you will get a list of stations, and if you just type in Utah as a search word, one of the options will be to let's see here.
You can also sort by state in one of the fields. So if you sort by states Utah, you'll see Fairview on that list.
So if we just type type Utah on the search bar, actually what would be better is W7SP, which is the club call sign, and there'll be Why is it that we're only showing Leamington?
Fairview's under Glenn's call.
Oh, that's right. That's convenient. Okay. So W7SP would be the one in Leamington, and WA7X would be the one at Fairview. Now, one of the things to note too is that if you go to the main Utah Amateur Radio Club webpage, you'll see off to the side, on one of the sidebars, you will see HF remotes, and if you click on that, you will find links to about everything you want: the software, the quick reference guide, the manual, more details on where it is and what the specifications and what's there. So about everything you want to know is there. I don't think it's been updated for the 6-meter antenna yet, but that's just a work in progress.
Awesome. Awesome. Fantastic. All right, before we get back into the presentation, do we have any additional questions for this evening that we might be able to answer before we continue? All right, go ahead, good sir.
At one point, probably way before COVID, I had permission to use the Leamington site. Do I need to renew permission, or can I just get on and go, or what needs to happen?
Well, what you need to do is you need to actually be a valid member of the Utah Amateur Radio Club. Once you get signed up for the remote station, then you're good to go. You will always have access to that remote station. The process is simple. You become a member of the club, and you either send an email to me or our club president, Marvin Match, and we'll go ahead and get you in contact with our chief software engineer, Gary, and we'll go ahead and give you access to the station. And as long as you keep up on your club membership, then you still will remain to have access on the station. Any other questions I might be able to answer before we get back into the presentation this evening? Nothing heard, so let's get back into it. All right, so we have RC Forbes here. We're showing off what the software kind of looks like and how to actually interact with the station and how to actually use our remote station. So at the at our last Leamington work party, here's our internet connection, by the way, fantastic. At our last Leamington work party, we got that 6-meter beam set up. We got some more cameras installed. Here you can see the inside of the computer cabinet, which actually does house the radio, the rotator control, as well as some of the other remote controls to actually access and use this remote radio at the Leamington station. Here's another good view of the top of the tower with the 6-meter beam installed. So the 6-meter beam rotates with the log periodic. So wherever you point the log periodic, the 6-meter beam is going to be there too. And you can switch between antennas on the RC Forbes software. Here's another look. We had to go out to Leamington one more time this year. We had to go out one more time this year because one, we needed to finish some building maintenance, but as well, we had some trouble with the radio. The radio was not working on 10 meters too terribly well. It was still undetermined whether we were having some issues with the SWR or what was going on. We didn't really know operating the radio remotely, so we had to go out there to find out. But we had a lot of building maintenance to do, so we got to work doing that. We formed a group, a party, and we went out and we started recalking the building, chiseling out some of the old caulking. And I got to work doing that, as well as some of the others helping me out. And we kept going, and we started recalking the old exterior joints on the building. Clint was inside working really hard trying to figure out what our problem was and what the issues were. Here's another video. Gary was there as well. with a few others on the inside, trying to take a look at the software and everything else to make sure things are working, because why not? You only have one shot while you're out there. We got a fantastic video of Brett and Clint working on the radio, trying to figure out what's going on and figure out why the power wasn't getting out too terribly well. The conversion with audio and stuff like that, since the projector is down here at the meeting, isn't going to work out too terribly well, so I apologize, I can't play that. A couple more innards of the radio and the work that Gary was doing to it. As well as at the same time, we were finishing up some of the exterior work on the building just in time for lunch. Thank goodness it was starting to get a little warm out, even though winter was upon us. Finishing up some of the caulking. We inspected some damage on the roof, and then we stood back proudly and looked at our work and thought about all the fun that some of these technician class operators are going to have at our Leamington station, and just the thoughts of the fun times ahead using some of our remote stations to do some of this stuff. And I really appreciate Clint's work, Gary's work, Brett's work, Chuck's work, and a lot of you, countless others in the club that have helped us put this gosh darn thing together. So I'll pass things back over to Clint with any closing comments, and then we'll see if there's any more questions.
All right, I think you summed it up pretty well, James. It's definitely a cooperative effort. Now, one thing I should remind that if you are a technician, you are, and you really want to take that as a good impetus to learn code, you can get more privileges than just 10 or 6 meters across the HF bands, because novices and techs have privileges on 80, 40, 15, and 10 meters CW. And if you're willing to do that, I mean, if you learned how to play an instrument or speak a second language, that's way harder than learning the code, even at slow speed. And of course, 10-meter techs have privileges, voice privileges on a good chunk of 10 meters anyway. So, and I might note that in the past couple months, and for another year or two at least, the conditions are such that on 10 meters, you'll be able to talk really well pretty much anywhere during daylight hours, and occasionally even late at night. The 10 meters is open, and that includes up until about the mid-morning into Asia, into Europe, and once you get to the evening, it's well into Asia and Australia, and even overnight. You can talk, all around the world on 10 meters. And for 6 meters, the best times of the year when that is more likely to be open are maybe January, end of December, and also the May to July, where the band randomly opens more frequently than it does at other times of the year. But then again, 6 meters can be surprising too. Sometimes it just opens and you can't put out small enough signal to not be heard. That's why it's called the magic band. So, and of course, any licensed amateur can work all of 6 meters just fine. So we haven't talked too much about the Fairview station. I mean, it uses a roughly comparable antenna to the G5RV, and it gets out really well. So don't forget that one. And it gets out pretty well too, although it doesn't see as well to the east, but it seems to do okay.
One must note that the location of the Fairview station is not conducive to stable power. So it is one of those things that it may not be available as long as during durations of the year, especially during the winter, that the Leamington site may be available.
Yeah, it is not possible to get to the Fairview station, probably not with a wheeled vehicle from now till maybe May. Once there gets to be a foot or so of snow on the ground, the only way to it is by snowcat or snowmobile or a snowshoe. So unfortunately, that means that sometimes it's been down for months at a time. But the Leamington station, is a much lower altitude, and we can actually get to it in the winter. So anyway, we encourage you to use it. But more importantly, we encourage you to get your own station on the air. Perhaps you will discover by using these stations that, hey, maybe I can do some of this HF stuff. And don't forget too that one of the more popular aspects of operating HF these days is parts on the air. And that is a great excuse for getting out and setting up a portable station. So you can do that even if you don't have any, if you don't have any way to put up your own permanent antenna. The other thing it does too, parks on the air, since it is portable, if you're into like MCOM or emergency communications or anything like that, doing POTA is one of those things where you're doing many of the same things that you would be doing in an emergency situation or at field day or some other thing like that. And that is getting your own, just on your own wits, setting up a portable station, getting antennas up, finding out what does and doesn't work, and also getting on the air and talking to a lot of people. And what's more important is that if you do get on the air and fail, you will probably learn more than you did if you got on the air and succeeded wildly. Because if everything worked right for the first time, how would you learn? So there you go. I think that pretty much covers it.
All right, perfect. I think that pretty well does. Yeah, definitely some great stuff, and it's going to be good. If you don't have your own HF station, if you're a member of our club, why not put the initiative in to actually try out one of our remote stations? And as a matter of fact, too, I want to extend a warm invitation to anybody that wants to come down and work on our remote stations or even on our repeater sites. If you want to do that, just let one of our club officers know and we'll make sure to invite you. But do we have any questions or comments? Bruce, I believe you have one. Go ahead.
Went down and helped them out putting that antenna up originally. That log periodic antenna is 35 foot wide, 30 foot long. It's 70 feet up in the air to the tower platform. You can see the guys standing on that platform in this picture. And the tower's 20 feet up above them where the antenna's at. Now, think of the logistics of taking a 35-foot antenna up the side of a 70-foot tower, hang it off the side of the tower, attach it to the 20-foot tower, and then push it all up into the air. And then they went down last August and put a 6-meter antenna on top of that. And the climbing harness is so that you stay up on top of that tower, because it's a long ways down. Putting it up, we actually had some stuff get loose from us, and there was some safety issues. We managed to, when we were hauling stuff up, or moving stuff up and down the tower, we pulled the rope way away from as far away from the tower as we could, so that if anything fell, it fell in a dead spot. So things like that you got to pay attention to, and yeah, this is a big project that we put together down there, and you can see the scope of it right there. The drone that took that picture is probably 100 feet up in the air, and you can see the guys standing at the bottom to see how big that tower actually is at the top.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a great big project and a lot to work on. Here's the picture that we have here. I'm just sorry, the projector here at the U of U is down, so it has no HDMI input, so we're kind of cut off and have a hybrid meeting, and I can't necessarily merge what's going on with the projector here on HDMI with what's going on the YouTube live stream or even Zoom. So it's been a rough meeting to run, so I do apologize about that. Do we have any additional questions or comments? Even those from Zoom, feel free to go ahead. All right, so we've got two here. So let's go ahead with our first one.
Still working on that, like if it's too late, like if I ever like come on up, I want to see this thing.
Yeah, for sure. You are more than welcome to come down to one of our Leamington work parties on the remote station, or if you want to be put on our list or be kept on call when we have emergency stuff that comes up or we need to visit one of our repeater sites. That would be fantastic to have you there. We welcome all members of our club to come down and see some of the stuff that we have. It's a lot of fun for sure.
Can you put me on the list? And then, yeah, I wonder, like, when do they do that? And was that last summer?
I think the best way to involve yourself would be to send an email to the club secretary or to Gary, K7DB, and let them know that you have an interest, and then they can fill you in and things like that rather than ask for it here at the meeting, because that way there's a record and we can kind of go back through our emails and remember who we added and who we haven't. So that's probably the most effective way to do that.
Yeah. Yep. All right, so yeah, just shoot Gary an email if you're interested, or me, or any other club officer, and we will get you taken care of. It looks like we have another question here at the meeting. Sabra, AI7UG. Go ahead and take it away.
Yes, I was wondering, you had said there is an iPhone app. Did I miss it? Before, when I had tried to check into it, it seemed like there was only an Android app. Another advantage of using the app is that the microphone on the phone is made for being directional and noise canceling, because the thing I was reading was saying that you have to get an external microphone for your computer if you're going to use it there.
Fantastic. Anybody from Zoom that might be able to answer that, feel free to go ahead.
I just checked in, and it appears that the iPhone app was deprecated in January of 2023, and there are no plans to replace it. So that answers that question. Regarding the microphone, so long as your computer has a microphone built in, you can select it from the options. There is actually, on the top of the software, there's a slider that you can use to adjust the microphone gain. And there's some instructions on that procedure, just to get it so that your audio looks good. It's in the green, and it'll turn red if you're clipping too much. That's really all that there is to it. You can use any microphone, whether it's in the system or connected externally.
Having said that, it's best if you have a headset, but you don't have to. I mean, the better audio you have, the nicer you are to other people trying to listen to you over HF. But it's not an absolute requirement. Most computer microphones are pretty lousy because they pick up the fans in the computer, but they do work, and a lot of people do use them.
All right, that's fantastic. That's great to hear. Do we have any other questions that we can answer here at the meeting, or anybody else on Zoom that may have a question? Feel free to go ahead.
I have a comment, Morris.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead, Morris. The floor is yours.
Another story. If you want to know how to get on the Leamington site, there are excellent instructions on our website. And I suggest that you go there, read out that. It has instructions, and it has this simple process that you go through to get on it. Gary keeps a log of every user who's authorized to use the Leamington site. And so he's the one that is the keeper of the door. So that's the end of my comment.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a great comment, Morris, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, again, visit our website, utaharc.org, and on the left side, you'll see a tab that you can click there that says remotes or HF remotes. And all you need to do is click that, and it has all the information there on how to get you started on using these HF remote stations, which is really cool. Does anybody else here or on Zoom have any comments or questions? Feel free to go ahead.
This is Evan. You got me?
We got you. We got you. Go ahead.
Okay. I want to affirm what Clint was saying about POTA. Certainly the getting out and doing the activation of a site is a lot of fun. We did that with the Golden Spike Club out at the Golden Spike site 2 years ago, and it vastly increased the number of contacts that we made. But it's also a lot of fun just being a hunter. I'm up to about 350 parks right now as a hunter, and it's very, very similar in operating procedure to DX. So if 10 meters happens to be shut down, well, go down to 20 meters and work POTA. You go to the POTA website, just POTA, all you have to do is Google it, and it'll take you to it. And it lists all of the sites that are open on all the different bands. And it's just a lot of fun working these guys all over the world.
Fantastic, fantastic. I appreciate all the fun comments here. Call me a pain in the butt or the meanie, but I'm going to go ahead and end the presentation here. It's been a little hard for some people to actually experience this too terribly well here in person, but you know what? Over YouTube and Zoom, it's been a fully immersive experience, or at least kind of close to it. So we'll try and do better next meeting and make sure that everything's up to snuff and everybody gets the same experience, no matter whether they come to the meeting in person or whether they join us over YouTube Live, which is really neat. And again, that pains me. I haven't even looked at the YouTube Live comments, but I'm sorry about that. Maybe consider joining the meeting when you can at some point and come down to the U of U. All right, I'm going to turn things back over to our club president, Marvin Match. This is KK7AVS 73.
Thank you, James. Good job. And thanks to everybody else who helped out as well, Clint and Brett and Morris and the rest of you guys. And especially people who have taken advantage of being able to go down and help on these work parties. I went down on the one where we put the 6-meter antenna up. Obviously, with only one arm, I couldn't climb the tower or anything like that. But I stayed busy anyway, assembling the antenna and running for tools and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. And I was happy to be able to help at least a little bit. Okay, has everybody got a ticket in the drawing bucket?
Did you do that riding a skateboard?
What?
He asked, did you get that injury riding a skateboard?
Oh yeah, I wish. I actually, when I was a kid, I rolled my skateboard down the steps of my father's porch. That didn't go well either.
Any tickets? Any tickets?
7, Bruce?
There's 8 prizes.
8 prizes. Oh.
And I personally went
There you
to
go,
pick them
Linda.
all out, so hopefully that will be some good in ham radio. At least my thoughts.
8.
Mark mentioned that the door prizes worth dollars are the reason, if nothing else, to come to the in-person meeting.
That's right. Jerry says the door prizes are a good reason to come to the in-person meetings. So those of you who are visiting us from home, thanks for doing that, because that means I have a better shot at getting a prize. Okay, in no particular order, first come, first serve. KG7D, is it GN or ON? GN. WA7JOS. Somebody put in the wrong coupon. It ends in 848.